So now that Pauline's back in the room, we will come back to items 8 and 9. So item 8, Randall Street, street renewal project. Pauline, can you make some introductory remarks about this one, please?
For that. Yeah, well actually this is an opportunity through the Land Drainage Recovery Program to actually do exactly what we've been striving to do at Council, and that's to bring efficiencies by aligning the works that we do and also reducing disruptions for people. So the Randall Street project is bringing the intended works forward by about 5 years. It was due for a renewal to align with the land drainage works there, which is actually happening now. And this is the Dudley bypass work, which the 9 metre wide culverts going right down the middle of the street. The balance of the work after the street's been replaced will be replacing the dish and channel with the appropriate berms and some renewals, and the funding's coming from savings made in Medway Street. So it seems very logical and the right thing to do. We approved it at the committee. There's efficiencies because the contractor's obviously all on site now. The work's being done. It would be silly not to actually complete the street. And it's one thing that residents do not like seeing is when we finish a job and then we come back a few years later and dig it up. So this will also make this area, which has been very, very hard hit by the earthquakes as well, and now it's had to suffer this whole upheaval with the Land Drainage Recovery Program going in there with the bypass. That work will be done, dusted and finished. So the committee supported this.
Great, thank you very much. So we'll now move to questions, and my first question is, what would be the implication of us not approving this today? What would happen if we didn't approve this today?
Basically, if you didn't approve it today, we would just patch over as part of the land drainage program, and we'd just have a part of a broken street. So we'd have to come back and do it in 3 or 4 years' time. So in the long term, it would cost you more, obviously.
And the Dudley Creek works are actually taking out one side of the curb. It's not quite down the middle in that point, so one side would be replaced with new dish, deep dish. We didn't think that was to match the other side, so it would go back in.
All right, thank you.
The other part of this, with this to understand, is the piece between the piece between Petrie and Crystal Street is being replaced in flat curb and channel as part of Skirt's work. So the Land Drainage Program are delivering it as part of, on behalf of Skirt, and this is the piece between Crystal and North Parade. So it connects the street too, as a consistent.
Okay, thank you. So Glenn and then Yanni. Glenn.
Thank you, Lynette and David. I thought the engagement over Medway Street was excellent, and this strikes me it's quite similar given the overall carriageway, etc., and what we're proposing to do. But because of that, and because Richmond's been a hard-hit area, I wonder in 6.4 whether we could, and I am going to push it to be honest, just go for consult there rather than have both options, because I know, I'm sure the residents will welcome it, but I think it'd still be great to take them on board, just to know that they heard us. That you don't see that as a biggie?
No.
Great. It's got two options there, but I think I'd like us just to land on your ward, Pauline. Is it? Yeah, just to land on the consult rather than inform. I think it would be.
It can be done. We can go out and engage with the community, whether it's a consult or an engagement. We can do something and engage the community and what's going on in there.
Yeah, I'm just.
Because it is already happening.
Yeah.
I think there's more of an expectation that it's happening in the community because that other piece of Randall is being done.
Yeah.
But we can definitely engage with the community. That's not
Excellent.
an issue.
I think in all reality though, if you went to the community and said, do you want your street finished to this point and we come back and dig it up later, or would you like it all done? I mean, it's not rocket science to think what the answer will be. So I think that you're right, Glenn, they're doing really, really good engagement and letting people know. Yeah. So I've taken comfort in that.
Yeah, if we can take inform out, I'd feel better.
Yep.
Or if we can have confidence that there'll be an appropriate level of active engagement with the community,
Absolutely.
I think is where we're at. Yep, that's fine. So Yanni and then Dion.
Thanks. So I just want to be clear in terms of the condition of Randall. It's not scheduled until 5 to 10 years. So you said, I think 3 years it would be done, but in terms of our street renewal program, this isn't a priority at all. Is that correct?
Is that 5 years on the
But
programme?
scheduled for 5 years.
5 to 10, okay.
So do we have any other streets that are greater priority that are?
The
that have
issue
not been
is
done?
that schedule was done without the pipe having gone through.
I think the real issue is the opportunity to save some money, because we're digging up one side of the curb, we're going to put back an old one, which would be, I don't think would be a good way to go, and then we'd come and dig it back up in 5 to 10 years' time. So it's actually that coordination of efficiency and effectiveness. Skirt's doing the section right next door, it just gets us right out of that street. So, yeah, it just...
Why would you, for the stuff that's being replaced, why would you put the old deep dish back?
Because you can't have half and half.
We've got half
All
and half all
right,
over
we could
the
put
site.
half and half back.
So,
It doesn't, the community doesn't understand having half and half.
well, no, we've got quarter as
All right.
well in some
We can do
streets.
it, that's your decision.
Yep, that's why we brought it here.
So what's proposed to be done under the proposal that we've got here?
Under the proposal is to put complete flat curb and channel in this section of Randall Street, from Crystal to North Parade. Petrie to Crystal will be all flat.
Yep, so maybe the better question is, why would we do that? And why would we not? I mean, yes, it may well be our decision to put half and half, quarter and quarter, eighth and an eighth, or whatever, but what's the rationale for doing it all and doing it well at the same time?
No, that's not the question. The question is, if we don't approve this today, what goes back, and why would we get the old deep dish channel?
You would put back a curb and channel on the old street alignment, basically, and so when we came up to do the other half of the street, we would then have to come up, rip that out, maybe the curb, we may be able to put the curb in, I don't know, I'm sorry, the detail, the levels of the street, whether the curb that we would have to put in to drain the street on its current geometry would be in the right place or not, I don't know. So this enables us to do the proper design, get it all done and flat, and get rid of all those problems. Now, I could put in a flat curb or I could put in a ditch curb. I don't actually know the geometry of the street and whether I could put it in there so it would still function without doing that whole
Okay, so
streetscape.
just the other two questions I had was, is this going to include the footpaths being renewed at the same time?
Yes.
Cool. And so just in light of that, I'd be really keen to see some sort of engagement. Like we did engage.
Just see we've engaged.
Yeah, so I think that's really important. So that will be able to be done, and people can feed in, you know, what sort of trees are being planted or landscaping, driveways, all that stuff that we normally get. So that can happen.
Yep.
And then I think in terms of the cost of doing this later versus the cost of doing it now, so how much money do you think doing it now saves us?
Probably saves us 300,000, I'd imagine, from if we're going block to block. Plus, obviously, you know, the contractor has to establish himself back on, or themselves back on the site. It'd be not highly cost effective because it's a small piece of work relative to, you know, the cost of establishment and the equipment and things.
It's future funding.
Yeah.
Yep, great.
Look, I'm sorry, that's right off the top of my head. It's not a...
Yeah, and I mean, there are costs in ways other than financial cost as well, in terms of the expectation and the logic around, you know, the amenity for people that live in the neighbourhood and getting in once, doing the work and getting out again and so on. Okay, moving on. Dion and then Dave.
What's the length of the bit of street?
80 metres.
80.
80.
Okay, cool. And that's all?
Dave.
Thank you. Look, I completely support this notion of doing the work now. I just wanted to clarify, you are proposing that when you do the street renewal, you will be doing flat channel in the entire park. What I don't want to see is a mixed mash of deep dish and flat channel like happened in Bower Ave. So we're going to have to go and dig Bower Ave up again at some stage. And to me, what you're proposing makes complete sense, and I just want to clarify that it was flat channel.
You
Great.
appreciate we're doing all the drainage and the work there as part of the Dudley Creek, so we can actually get the grades all right for flat.
Great, thank you very much. So is someone happy to move this? Pauline, seconded by Mike. Yep, so we're now moving to debate, so Pauline.
As I said, I'm very supportive of this for many reasons. It's the cost efficiencies, but also it's the benefit to the residents there of not having to go through this street being dug up again, and there could be potential damage to the new road surface that we're putting down now if we come back. But you've got to remember that people in this area, they've put up with a lot with this massive job of the Dudley bypass, and that's actually not going to benefit their particular area. And I think that for them to have their street dug up for this work and for the benefit of people in Flockton, to have them end up with a street renewal looking really beautiful and nice after all this time is what they will really appreciate. So there's the cost efficiencies and there's the logical rationale for doing this right now is one thing, but the benefits to the residents for me is, I think, really important. So I'll be supporting this.
Glenn.
Thank you. One of the key parts of our procurement policy is whole-of-life cost savings, which are identified here. I think on those grounds alone, it makes perfect sense to do that. Is better value for ratepayer money. But I also want to stress that this was a very hard-hit part of the city. Post-quake was part of Burwood Pecos's ward, now transferred to Central. The Richmond area particularly was very badly hit, and in Pauline's ward there are some shocking streets. So I think we need to support this. What I want to really stress though is that part of the option, in option A it talks about /inform. I really must stress we've got to take people with us on this. So, and I know you will, you made a great job, Lynette, over Medway, getting that underway. So I would like to think that this is extended. These are very wide streets, 13 metres. I stupidly measured one in the dark. The tape measure, it's not a good idea. But 9 metres out of the whole thing leaves you, two either side. So it makes sense to do the whole width with modifications with the footpath, curb and channel, etc. So I do hope you support this. Thank you.
From a health and safety viewpoint, you maybe need a reflective tape measure.
I think I'll stick.
Okay, so Yanni.
Yeah, I mean, it's been no secret that this is what I've wanted us to do as we've been doing the skirt works, and it hasn't happened, which has been a real lost opportunity. So I actually do think this is a much more sensible approach. The reason I raised the questions is because there's other parts of the city that also were badly hit, that, as David's alluded to, that have had these patch repairs, have got 4 different types of curb and channel, and, don't drain, have all sorts of issues. And we never got any report to actually do the renewal at the same time, which I think was a real shame. So I think this makes sense in terms of it saves money, which can hopefully then be put into those other streets that do need that work to be done. I think the other thing, and hopefully at some stage, I don't know where it's at, we're going to have a workshop on undergrounding as well. But in some of these streets there are quite large mature trees, and we do need to think about we're failing levels of service on electricity and tree clearance, and maybe in some of these more established areas we do need to think about, I think, undergrounding at the same time. But yeah, I mean, sensibly this is about doing things together, getting the synergy between the land drainage, the skirt and the council, and if we can save money on this, then I hope that money can be put into things like North Avon Road, for example, which we have actually already signed off to go ahead but has been delayed to support Medway. So hopefully this gives us a bit of flexibility. But yeah, I do think it's a sensible thing to do.
Yeah, I certainly appreciate the frustration in some other parts of town where there are, outcomes that clearly we need to go back and look at. This may not have been a priority, but clearly now logically it is a priority, given that we've gone through and done the works with the pipe going through. There are practicalities to doing this, efficiencies, effectiveness, cost benefits, as we've heard, amenity benefits for the residents in going in there once, doing the work is logical, it's sensible, and I expect that this will be supported. So I'll put the motion. All those in favour? Against? That's carried. Great.